What's going on, traders? It's Ricky with Technical Solutions. So just another recap on today's trading. This is different because I never actually see myself. I'm always just sharing my screen. Um, I thought I would do it a little different this time. In reality, I'm actually doing it this way because I was very busy in the morning and I had a meeting in the morning. I didn't have time today to film my recap. And although I wasn't able to do it in the morning, I still want to give you guys, in a sense, my whole thought process, what I did good, what I could have done better, and again, give you guys another opportunity, or give myself another opportunity to actually, communicate with you guys, just and answer some of your questions live. So I've been really busy these past couple of weeks. If you guys know anything about me, school has been really just killing me because of everything that I have going on. So I do want to thank you guys all for your support. The group's been doing amazing. So the group within TechBud Solutions group chat has been more active than ever before, and more supportive than ever before with all the new members joining us. So we've been averaging about 100 to 200 members every single day. So thank you guys again for welcoming these people with open arms. If you guys would like to be a part of Tech Solutions, the link is provided for you down below. It is a free networking group that you can join. The best things that we do are share best practices and share mistakes in efforts to promote growth, right? So I do want to give a shout out to one of our, TechBud spotlights today, and that's going to be D. I posted on our Facebook platform page, which is the link down below, and then within that you can have access to the group chats once you get accepted. But I just wanted to recognize her for her going out of her way and sharing, kind of I think what she learned today, and for everyone else to be able to learn that as well. So if you guys have any questions or any suggestions, I do have what's it called, the live chat, um, in a sense, in front of me. So I'm going to start answering some of your questions. But before we do that, for those that are here to actually, watch my recap, I'm going to do that first in respect to you guys, and then I'll start answering any questions. So let me go ahead and get right into it. So I ended up trading JDST, and then I ended up trading CBIO and Snap. Snap was an overnight hold. If you guys saw yesterday's recap, I ended up holding Snap overnight. I was in at $20.35. I'm just going to start sharing my screen. Why am I talking? All right. All right. So this was pretty much my trade with Snap. This is a 5-day analysis, and the reason that I identified the support at $20 as a good buy was because of overall how it's been trading. So if we simply do a 10-day analysis, let's say we look at the market actually a little bit further back. Overall, if you do this 1-month analysis, you can see that Snapchat has held very well above $20 for a majority of the past, 1 month that it's been almost public, right? It has hit highs of when it initially opened, I believe it was $29.44, and lows of about $19 or $18.99. Overall, I knew we're getting in at a good point. That Snapchat, not a penny stock whatsoever, multi-billion-dollar company. I felt comfortable trading this one. In a sense, if this had to be a swing trade and hold for multiple days, then I felt comfortable with it because even if it continued to go down, I could continue to average down. So that's why I identified, Snapchat as a good buy. And I shouted this one out in my, swing trading group chat within TechBud Solutions. Now, the reason I decided to jump in at the price that I did, I was going back and forth with one of our traders. His name's James Quigley. So huge shout out to him for his advice. But overall, I ended up getting in a lot sooner than he was supposed to get in. And the reason why was because I actually identified a support at 2050. And then I got in a little bit above that. But then all of a sudden it took a dip and I averaged down. So I ended up hitting lows of 205 and it hit that low twice. I ended up buying it at 205 to average down, and my average was actually at 2035. So my average at 2035 ended up holding overnight. I was in the in the green, right, for the remainder of the day, and the market did pretty well. It held, identifying the support pre-market is usually what I do to kind of play out how the day is going to play out. And there was a resistance during pre-market and after-market hours up to 60. Now I knew if we were to break, 260, it was going to be a green day, and I knew if we broke below 244, it was going to be more of one of these days. So overall, I wasn't too worried. I was more than willing to go long on my trade, but it ended up just working out the way I wanted it to, meaning that I knew there was a resistance at $21. And going back to a 5-day analysis, you are going to see these different levels of resistance. And this is what I want you guys to focus on. This is a support at $22. Once it breaks the support below 22, it hits a support at 21. Once it breaks the support at 21, it hits a support at 20. So, this is 1 to, 0 to, 20 to 21. And then from 21 to 22, and then from 22, you'd most likely guess 23. So every dollar, there seems to be a very strong resistance and a very strong support. And like we know, old support levels become new resistance levels. So when it's coming back up, where's a good price to, sell? Well, since I got in closer to the support here, a good price point to sell would be closer to the resistance here, meaning that, once it goes above $21, what I did was I simply set my stop loss at $21, ended up stop lossing out right away, and, sold my shares for an amazing amount of profit, and that was really just it. For the trade that it was, Snapchat not being a penny stock, I was able to lock in a little bit over $160 worth of profit, again, with the simple just idea of support resistance, knowing that I got in at a good buy because of what I know about Snapchat and the value proposition within the past month. And by knowing that, I identified 21 as a good sell point. Can it go higher than 21? It definitely can. It definitely is not unrealistic for it to break above 21, but I knew this was a good buy point, this was a good sell point, and if it were to break above 21 and it continued to show upward momentum, I can get in at 21.25 and ride it up to 22. And that's a whole other, in a sense, good trade that I can do for myself. But realistically, I didn't want to be greedy. I wanted to lock in my profits, and it seems like I played it just well. I called out all my trades during pre-market and then in the general group chat, as my overnight hold, and then where I was selling, and it ended up playing out just like I expected. During pre-market hours, it seems, or after market hours, I apologize. It seems that it's still holding above the EMA pretty well, and we're just gonna have to see how the market opens for this upcoming week, right? For Monday and the days to follow. But that was pretty much my trade on Snap. Alrighty, so my second trade was with JDST, and what this one was, there was a huge, if you guys heard any of the news, right, with I believe what happened with Syria and the bombing that they did with the chemical warfare. Not exactly sure. Didn't read too into it, right? All I knew was that gold, because our economy was showing bad signs or bad health, gold went up. This being a bear ETF does the opposite. So when gold goes up, this goes down. Therefore, once that news was released, it went from 1420, if I'm not mistaken, to lows of about 1280. And it was trading yesterday at highs of 1440, 1450, ended up hitting lows of 1280. So that would have been an excellent buy point. And how could you identify that? Well, if you simply go 1 month back, how often does it hit that low point, right? How often does JDST hit 12? Not very often. So anything below $13 seems to be very rare, and it always ends up picking up, right? So what could be your plan? A buy point, anything below $13 is great. Well, unfortunately, when the market opened, it was already above $13. It was already above that price point. So what I ended up doing was I ended up averaging out for JDST at 13.15, and I pretty much held it throughout the entire day until it ended up breaking. I knew the resistance was right here at 13.90, and I called it out. I called it out because I knew that was an old support, so I knew that was going to be a good resistance. And let me change this because I really don't like this frequency. So I knew the support was around 1305 as it continued to bounce, and then it started showing signs of upward momentum, holding above this EMA line, right? It went all of a sudden from below EMA to above EMA, and it started to really hold. Once it broke that 350 to 360 support, resistance, just, which is the previous resistance it had during pre-market hours. This is why I tell you guys it's very important to you guys to identify support and resistance pre-market hours, because it can truly, in a sense, project how the entire market day for that day will play out. So it broke that resistance that it had during pre-market hours, and it just skyrocketed. As you can see from the 1350 hit highs of broke nearly to $14, and that was almost exactly when I sold, which in a sense was upsetting. But again, I locked in my profits, I had my plans, and I stuck to it, and that was just it. So now, when it continued to rise, ended up hitting highs of 1460, which is great. There's a lot of traders that were able to profit and make huge amounts of profit, and that was great for them. But overall, with my trade, was able to lock in $225 worth of profit and a couple cents. But overall, just again, a successful trade with the simple concept of identifying support, resistance, using indicators, and then using overall judgment based on the value proposition for the past month, or just overall standing of where JDST currently stands. I knew that I was aware of the news that happened. I was aware of the current price point, and I was aware of support and resistance, where I was buying, where I was selling, and where I would cut my losses. I told you guys right away that I would cut my losses if it breaks below $13 because I knew I could get in at 12.80 because that's the other support that it has. And I stuck to it, ended up playing out just like I expected, and that was just it. Now with CBIO, this one didn't play out exactly as I planned. I thought it was going to break the resistance here at $5 and $5.80, right? Ended up buying in at $5.55, but it couldn't break above this resistance anymore. The reason I thought this was a gapper was because if you do a 2-day analysis on CBIO, I thought this one, since it had, it was trading above $6.50, hit highs of about $9, and this is almost exactly what D was talking about. And that, again, that is one of our members within our group. So if you guys haven't read her post, I want to see if I could find it. I can't. But pretty much, she was saying that sometimes company use catalyst as a news that can be even if it is true or not, it could be a catalyst that can increase the price that it won't truly hold at that price. So all this action happened after market hours and a little bit during pre-market hours, and it had really strong pops, really strong rises. Now when the market opened, I thought it was going to follow because we broke above the pre-market resistance, but it did end up popping pretty strong and then just hit a resistance at that $6 mark and continued to staircase down. I am down currently. I ended up having an average down. I'm at 550, so I'm down 5 cents per share, so about like $36, $37. Nothing crazy, right? I did hold this one essentially because I didn't label this one as a penny stock. And I'm just going to have to see how it plays out tomorrow. Again, when it comes to value proposition, I saw the overall analysis within 1 month. I did say that before it has had the potential to continue dropping down to about $4.90, but I thought the potential for profit was a lot higher of nearly $8 and stuff like that. And again, it's no like false hope or anything that I was hoping for. Realistically, what I was telling people was that I was thinking of selling at the 650 resistance. The reason I classified 650 as a resistance was solely because of this previous support that it had at 650. So again, I would, in a sense, almost label that as a resistance. But that's really just it. Nothing more than that. And that was my trade on CBIO. I'm not taking it as a loss yet because I haven't, in a sense, sold. But I will follow up with this one on Monday and let you know how I do. But that's pretty much my trading today. I hope you guys, enjoy or learned from some of my best practices. Something I could have worked on a little bit better with Snapchat is worked a little bit better on my entry point. I got in at 12 or 20.50 because I thought I indicated upward momentum, but I just jumped in too early. So what I could have done better is waited for more of the stronger supports at 20, 21, 22, and waited for a solid bounce. See that it's holding above EMA, and then have jumped in there. That could have gotten me at a better buy point of maybe 2010, 2020. But overall, not too worried about that. JDST, well, I missed out on a couple dollars of profit, so I could have nearly almost doubled my profit. But again, that plays out. I could have just jumped in after it broke above 14 and try to have squeezed in. I probably would have sold at 14.40 because of the previous resistance it has there, but I could have squeezed in a little bit more there. But again, that's just again what I need to work on. But that is it. I'm gonna Okay, so I'm gonna start reading you guys' questions. If you guys have any specific questions, and I see if you guys have any questions or anything like that. Okay. Daniel Rivera says Ricky is a gangster trader. Well, that's something I've never heard of before, but thank you. Where can I get a good video to learn about penny stocks? Well, this is Tim Smith. I mean, we have a series of helpful videos within our YouTube channel. It's called Helpful Videos, and it answers a lot of frequently asked questions. So I hope those videos can help you out. All right. Ricky, when is the last time you had a red day? And I get that question asked a lot, especially with people I know. They're like, "Well, how is it that you have such a high success rate?" If you guys see with my trades, I don't. I'm very conservative with what I trade, and I only trade with what I'm comfortable with. And although I think that does restrict me from, in a sense, like JDST, a large amount of profit, I think it's what's led to my success for the margin that I've made as of now. Meaning that I'm not in it to like make the most amount of money. I'm here to see steady growth to prove to myself that I can do it, and I do it within my own means and with what I'm comfortable with. In no way, like overall, am I always red, right? But like the loss that I'm taking right now on CBIO, if it goes anything below, the support that it had at $5.30, that's where my stop loss was. So I could have stop lossed out, but it didn't. Ended up holding. My stop loss didn't kick in, and that was really just it. So I think it's really understanding what I'm choosing to invest in, because I don't go. One of the things that I try to focus on the most is I feel like I'm very open minded. I feel like I want to listen to everyone and what they have to say, but in no way do I let their decision or their suggestions influence my decision to trade as an investor. I just take in what, like, as I absorb it, right, and try to make sense of it. And if I can make sense of it, then I use it to develop a better judgment on what it is that I'm choosing to invest in. In no way should you ever, no matter who it is, ever let anyone tell you what to invest in or how to invest it. You as the investor are supposed to be able to identify a good buy and a good sell and a whole plan. If you can't, then that's not really showing you good traits for investing, right? Or as a career. And I think that's really what separates those that are going to be successful and not. There's the followers, and then there's the ones that end up, really set up their own, in a sense, route to success. They take, other ideas and stuff like that, but their success has been a mixture of suggestions and advice, but it's his own decision or her own decision that's led to the success. So I do end up locking in my profits a lot sooner than I know, and I cut my losses, if not to the lowest point that I can, less than 1%, right? So if I do see a loss, I really just need to see a 1 to 2% gain to almost break even or make a profit. And it's because I try to minimize loss as much as I can. With CBIO, just because I see a little bit more potential, I'm trying to learn a little bit more about being a little bit riskier. But so far, this has led to my success. So yeah. So hundreds to millions ask, Ricky, what is considered a successful percentage gain in a day, week, month, year? Okay, so that's a good question. Like, what is it? I think the way that you guys can articulate success is achieving your goal. So with one of our videos, we talked about why we started the $1,000 challenge was so you guys can in a sense keep track of of what it is that you guys make and have a goal. Because I want to make sure that if you guys have a goal, you'll stay more on track to achieve it and be a little bit more competitive and aggressive. And what I mean by that is, for some people it's 2-3%. For some people it's 10-15%. I think with a successful day for myself is anything above 5%. But no matter what, anything's a successful day, right? I mean, it really comes down to the amount of time that you dedicated to it, and the opportunity cost. If you could have done something better, or a little bit more efficient, that could have made you more money, then yeah, I think with the 2 hours that I trade actively and the amount of money that I invest, seeing a 5 to 7.5% return is a successful day for what it is that I do and that I dedicate. The $250 a day, that is currently my goal, and I will continue to increase that as my knowledge and my account increase, and in a sense, my risk increases. So I think it really comes down to, in a sense, asking what makes a successful day. Is, what do you label as a successful day? Are you okay with making, 20, 30, 40, $100 with a profit a day with the amount that, with the account that you have? And then, if you have $100 in your account, seeing a $5 gain in that day is a successful day. But if you have a $10,000 account, seeing a $5 profit is not a successful day, because it's the percentage growth that you're not seeing. So it really comes down to how much you have in your account, what your goals are, and if you're hitting them. So FB asks, Ricky, is ZSAN in your watch list? It is. So I have over 50 stocks in my watch list, but it's not one that I'm actively trading at the moment. So one of the biggest things that I'm probably going to make a video to follow up with it is the almost the mirror image that JNUG and NUGT have on JDST, which JNUG and NUGT are both bear ETFs, and what I mean by that is they usually rise when gold prices rise. Now the bear gold ETF is JDST. That's why when our economy isn't doing so well, JDST is a bear in a sense ETF, so it takes a dip. Therefore, it has more. Although everyone tries to sell and stuff like that, you have to understand we're day traders. We're not here to, in a sense, we're here to identify a support, a bounce, and ride it up. Yeah, I had to see that JDST. That's why it was in my watch list, because I identified that to have more potential for margin of profit than JNUG and NUGT, since they already peaked at the resistance. And I let me know if I could have done a better job explaining that, but that's ideally why I jumped into JDST and avoided. I would have more likely shorted NUGT and JNUG rather than buy in. I think you said you're in school, right? How do you trade? So how do you trade the market open to close? Well, I actually only trade for 2 hours. So I have school, I have a job, and I run a series of businesses, and then I trade. But I have, in a sense, a good plan. It's not the best plan since I'm not doing the best in all my classes, but it's definitely something that I'm working on. So I've developed, kind of a schedule of 2 hours a day, and then the rest of the time, I respond to messages or my alerts, and that's kind of how I stay on track. And that was by our June secondary that asked that question. And then Jake FL was actually the one that asked the question about JNUGs. So it says Jonathan Barajas asks, Ricky, why aren't you investing more money? Because of the amount that I have invested. And again, it comes down to being conservative. When it comes down to investing in anything, when you guys see my cars or see my houses or anything like that, I never buy anything unless I can identify it as a good buy. No matter what, I've spoken about it multiple times. I won't buy a GTR. I won't buy my Z06 if I was going to lose money. And that's just me as a person. You can say that I'm cheap or whatever it is that you want to say, but I like to buy as conservative and as smart as I can. Again, I'm not here to lose any money, and I'm here to try to make money in every market possible if there's margin for profit, and that's really why. I don't feel like as a trader or where I am in my career as an investor, I need to invest more, especially with the small amount of time that I have dedicated, because I have a lot of things going on. I think as I continue to develop myself as a trader and continue to learn and progress, later on down the road, I have a $30,000 account at the moment, and I only trade $3,000 at a time, and it's just something I made up. Yes, I can trade $10,000, and with 10% return or with a 7.5% return, I can see $750 profit every single day. but in no way is that going to really, I don't think the opportunity cost is there for me just yet. And that's just me as a person. And you have to discover yourself and label yourself as how you want to continue to progress as a trader and be realistic. And I think something with me, I'm very conservative, but I'm also very realistic, and that's that. How long, this is by Tim Smith, how long does it take for most people to learn how to day trade? Well, if you guys know anything, it's 90% of the market usually fails with day trading or investing, right? The 10% are the ones that usually tend to succeed. But it's because they don't give up, just like businesses, just like all those like uber successful people or YouTubers or anything like that. They do it for the knowledge. They do it for the potential that it has because they can identify that margin of profit. It's those that continue to overcome the hesitations, that continue to overcome any obstacles that they encounter, that tend to be successful in these specific markets. When it comes to YouTubing, when it comes to your business, when it comes to day trading, when it comes to anything, it's about being realistic and having a plan and sticking to it and understanding that it has potential. And it took me, I actually got that question um, suggested or asked a couple days ago, and I said it really did. It took me about 5 years from when I started at age 14 to really see like a return, and that's not something people are willing to dedicate. But again, I was very young. I had no mentor. I had no knowledge of anything. I was all self-taught and by trial and error, and I learned right away because of my huge loss that I saw that I'm not here to prove anything to anyone. It really came down to being realistic. I started with a smaller account and I saw a loss still, but my loss was a lot smaller because my account was a lot smaller. So as I was learning, my account accommodated the type of trader I was. Again, a beginner and not being scared of being labeled as a beginner. And as I continued to prove to myself with my trades that I was being successful, then I started to fund my account. And that's how I grew. And that's how I started to see a return. What scan size filters can you use? This is Thomas McCowen. We actually created a video, yesterday's helpful video, which talks about how to create your own scanner. It's not me that made it. It was one of our members, Henry. So a huge shout out to him that made a video on how to create a scanner through Thinkorswim. So I would suggest watching that. So Mullah Mike says, I've applied most of your strategies this week after consistent red days for the past 3 weeks. After or this week, I'm up 8%, and I always set my stop loss at 1% and have my target profit range from 6 to 8%. So I think for some people it works, and for others it doesn't. And what I mean by that is I know a lot of you aren't even too worried about the loss that you might see at 1%, but it's that day trade, that PDT rule that really limits you because you're like, oh, well, I'm gonna stop loss every single time, and I get that. So I think as you continue to develop yourself as a trader, continue to fund your account so later on you don't have to worry about that PDT rule, and then now you can minimize loss and still see that growth. But again, minimizing loss is going to be the biggest thing to see overall growth in your account, especially when trading penny stocks. Hundreds of millions asked another really good question. How do I change my attitude when I kick myself over lost opportunities? That is also a video that I've been, suggested to make. And if you guys would like me to make that, I will. But pretty much it comes down to understanding that in the long run, that you know that you'll make it. That you know that if um, you're realistic and within your means of growth, that you're going to make it. And what I mean by that is don't start with a huge account. You don't have to prove yourself like, well, I want to make $100, a day with $1,000 account right now as a new trader. That most likely won't happen. It's about, starting with $100 account or, $50 account and testing the waters or doing paper trading or simulation trading and proving to yourself. Because when it comes down to it, it's those that are realistic and that continue to overcome their hesitations and obstacles are the ones that are successful. And you can only do that when you have money because it takes money to make money. And if you lose all your money, then you're going to be discouraged and you're not going to want to do it. So again, start small and go big, and then go big. Again, as you learn as a trader, let your account accommodate the type of trader you are. But that is pretty much it. Other than that, I mean, I don't have any more suggestions. I do want to thank you guys for anything that, for all the support that you guys have been giving me. I do apologize again for the delayed recap, and I hope you guys enjoyed this. And if you guys have any further questions or anything like that, feel free to let me know. And I'm sorry, I'm trying to read some of your guys' questions right now in the chat, but it's just getting to the time I have a good amount of things that I still have to do. So I do apologize, but let me know. I'll try to catch up on some of my messages. DM me through GroupMe, and you have to, again, be in our group of TechBud Solutions, and the links are posted on the top post. And DM me in that group chat. I'll respond 100%, but it might take me either a couple hours or a couple of days, but I will get to you. Email and Facebook and all that stuff are not the best way to reach out to me, because I've been getting a lot of spam and stuff like that, and I try to filter all that out. So thank you guys again. I can't, thank you guys enough. I always tell me to stop saying thank you. I hope you guys all ended the week on a green note. It looks like a lot of you made that transition from a red account to a green account, and I'm so happy that I've been able to, assist you, and if not assist you, just be a part of, this transition to success. And I hope you guys are motivated and, excited for this upcoming week for trading. I know I am, and for our weekly stock talk, the Sunday stock tech that we have every week. And that's going to be on Sunday at 6:30 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. And if you're within our group, or either Facebook or group chat, there'll be an event created so you guys have the links to assist that. And I did upload a helpful video talking about me selling my 2016 Subaru WRX. If you guys haven't done so already, that is, again, my most recent post other than this one. So if you guys haven't done so already, feel free to watch that. And it talks about how I buy and sell cars for a profit and drive them around for a little bit. So thank you guys again. And I hope you guys have an amazing weekend. Take care, guys. Be safe.